Order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? So good. Second. Any further discussion?
Marie Coffey,
Aye.
Mary Ann Duncan Cole, you unmute Mary.
Mary Ann, can you hear us?
Got it.
If you want to type, that would be fine also.
I've unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Olga Hodges. Oh, is that I for approving the agenda?
Aye.
That was Olga, right?
Yes, that's Olga. Mhm.
Your vote.
And can you hear us?
You're very faint.
Mary Ann, what's your vote? We're voting on the agenda.
I didn't hear what was getting voted on.
Okay. Are we having trouble? Should we?
Or the
fix
mic pods are
sound?
muted. Okay.
So tell her what we're voting on. So she said all of the agenda. I did, and she said I, but I want to make sure our sound gets moved on. Okay, let's finish this and then.
Okay. Christy Morgan.
Aye.
Mary Williams.
Aye.
Irina Kakarina.
Aye.
Megan Dugan.
Aye. We move to approve the March 17th agenda. I don't have any announcements today. So we'll move straight into public comments. You'll probably know this by now. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. We'll take an hour to hear comments. No clapping or noise during or between speakers, no inappropriate language. Please be respectful of one another. And there's a little thing to stand on. It's a xylophone. Please direct your comments to the board and not back to the audience. No playing recordings, no playing videos, and make sure you say your name before you begin.
We have one virtual, Emily Grandy.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for letting me speak here tonight in support of bringing back Drag Queen Story Hour, or DQSH for short. My name is Emily, and at this point, you're probably sick of hearing me talk. I've been attending these meetings for over 2 years now, because in December of 2022, when it was proposed that FVRL bring back Drag Queen Story Hour, the following board meeting was swamped with opposing voices to that proposal. There was even an article written in the Columbian about it, and there was a call to supporters from the community to attend the next board meeting vocalizing to bring Drag Queen Story Hour back. And my first meeting was February of 2023, and I've only missed a handful of meetings since then. The content presented by the general public at these meetings has shifted over these last 2 years, initially just centering around the dissent for Drag Queen Story Hour, but then moving towards banning LGBTQ affirming literature for young people using the same rhetorics surrounding we have to protect the children. Those of us who support Drag Queen Story Hour and queer affirming literature being available to people of all ages have continued showing up as well, restating time and time again that sexuality and gender are not pathology, meaning these aren't things that you can catch. At the last meeting, the topic of banned books was so abundant that there was yet another Columbian article published about it. This time, however, the vast majority of participants were vocalizing their support of queer literature staying available to everyone, However, I believe it was Board Member Hodges took time to note that there has been no official petitions to ban any of this literature, and that nothing serious is actually happening here. And I wanted to take a second to point out that something serious is happening. Drag Queen Story Hour has not returned to FVRL since 2019, and I'm wondering at this point why that is, because choosing to not bring it back is not a neutral decision. You are participating in rhetoric that's antithetical to the values that this library system claims to have. So I'm wondering what's standing in the way here of Drag Queen Story Hour coming back if we're 2 years in and still haven't seen it. Thank you.
Next, we have Quill Onstead.
And today you have a COVID. That's good.
My name is Cole Onstead, and my pronouns are they, them. I am here to speak in support of Drag Queen Story Hour as a genderqueer member of the library community. March 31st is International Transgender Day of Visibility. In honor of the holiday, I'd like to talk about one of my favorite historical figures, Dr. James Barry. Dr. Barry was born in the 1790s in Cork, Ireland. He took his name from his maternal uncle and studied medicine at the University of Edinburgh. He went on to serve in the British Army from 1813 to 1859, eventually being promoted to Inspector General of Hospitals, the second highest medical rank available in the Army. He's credited with performing the first C-section where both mother and baby survived. He was also known for greatly improving sanitation, nutrition, and medical care, not just for soldiers, but everybody living in the colonies where he served. He passed away in 1865. Contrary to the instructions left in his will, a woman discovered that Dr. Barry did not have the body people expected him to have. She attempted to blackmail Dr. Barry's doctor, Major Dr. McKinnon, and when he refused to comply, went to the press. Trans people are not a social contagion or a disease. We did not pop into existence in the last 50 years. It is vitally important for kids to see people of all walks of life, not just surviving, but thriving, just like Dr. James Barry did. Drag Queen Story Hour is a vital program that teaches kids about gender identity in an age-appropriate manner. Parents who do not agree with Drag Queen Story Hour do not have to bring their children to any Drag Queen Story Hour programs. Please allow the staff of FVRLibraries to present Drag Queen Story Hour and have the district live up to the ideals espoused in FVRLibraries' equity statement. Thank you for your service to the community.
Next up, we have Tiffany Hine. Following her, I will have Carolyn Riddle and Margot Logan. Tiffany.
Good evening, board, and thank you for having us. I find it a shame that individuals at these board meetings find my opinion against Drag Queen Story Hour as radical right-wing conservatism, fascist, bigot, racist, fear-mongering. The threat is my moral values do not align with the DEI ideology. So be it, label me. As long as there's a chance that Drag Queen Story Hour comes to the local libraries, I will show up at these library board meetings to speak out against it. What is more of a shame is that that more who think like me are not here speaking up against Drag Queen Story Hour at libraries. I guess speaking out against men dressed up in feminine costume, wearing wigs and makeup, reading books to children, seeking attention for self-gratification apparently is not offensive enough to give up your personal time and speak out against it. If parents want drag queens or drag kings for that matter to read books to their children, take your children to them. This is a public library that offers books for all those who live in this community. It's a safe, quiet space for individuals to read and check out books. Libraries are not in the business of indoctrination. Thank you, board members, for taking the time to hear comments from your community.
Carolyn Riddle.
I'm very concerned about federal cuts in the freedom of speech issues. I'm a retired librarian. I work in public libraries and community college library and was a science. And I've seen firsthand some of the issues that can happen when there's federal oversight, when there are book bans, when there are budget cuts and that sort of thing. And I'm very supportive of the library and the free speech rights. And I'm wondering if the library board has any contingency plans for dealing with prospective budget cuts and the kind of things that we may see coming in the near future. Thank you.
Next, we have Margot Logan. Margot will be followed by Charles Forshoe and Jude J. Margot.
I love the library and I love
I'm
the
sorry, make
store.
sure you're saying your name before you start.
Oh, I'm Margot Logan. I'm actually out of Portland right now. And, yeah, I have so much gratitude for what I've seen and, I've been coming for 4 or 5 years now. And, I really wanted to switch some of the, comments over to just loving books. And if you're a voracious reader, you read everything. I mean, you just read everything. And the book that I'm suggesting tonight is The Great Conspiracy by General John A. Logan, who is actually my ancestor. I didn't realize until last week that he wrote a memoir. And so I'm reading this and it's like, yeah, I'm a Logan, that's for sure. And my great grandfather, William Logan, he was on the train with the Lincoln Douglas debates. He rode that train and he was in the Civil War. And it was so clear that General Logan was totally against slavery. I mean, I think because we're not a reading people anymore, the kids don't read, they don't know the wealth of this history. And I am just gobsmacked to read this. So we should just celebrate books. And I have been so pleased to see how the board has unfolded. I used to work in government here in Washington State, and a long time ago, Governor Locke made a move to try to do quality care, quality management in the government. The Deming, Deming, and his work in that area. So what I see you guys doing is that, and I think if Elon Musk ever proposed Doge Awards, I would nominate you guys. So, thank you.
Charles Forshoe.
I too am going to, I'm Charlie Forshoe from Vancouver. I am going to make a habit, I've said in the last meeting to come to these because I am fairly passionate about two things. Just how important and wonderful libraries are, and these are some of the best libraries ever. And the other thing is what people can do, friends of libraries. And though I can't address the people behind me directly, I'm speaking loudly because I want them to hear me as well. And that's because a lot of people who have become members of the Friends in Vancouver, down at Vancouver Community Library, had complained of how long it took them to figure out how to become a friend. It happened to me, it happened to Milt Jones, who is our current president, and we've never been able to figure out exactly how to fix that. And I think that there are a lot of people who would be willing to participate more actively in the life of their library if they knew how. And I think that's a message I want to continue to kind of hit at these meetings. So I'm speaking to you people behind me as well. During the executive session, if you have any reason to want to get off the sidelines and kind of become part of the active life of a library, and I can assure you in the coming months, there is going to be a deep need to have real boots on the ground when it comes to kind of just getting it done. And I would like to propose that if you see me at these meetings, if you want to find out how to participate, come see me. Give me your name, tell me how to reach you. There are a variety of ways to participate. The Friends, was that my cue? Oh, okay. So anyway, you got the message. Thank you very much.
Jude J. Jude will be followed by Gary Wilson and Julie Coep. Jude J.
Hi, my name is Jude. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm here today to talk about a couple of things. One of them is representation. To follow up on what I was talking about last month, lack of access to representation is not neutral, and overall, it leaves everyone with such a unique perspective. It's possible to describe human diversity in an age-appropriate way at every age. Explaining concepts like families come in all shapes and sizes helps everyone to be a better human being. It helps prevent bullying, which I think we can all agree is a bad thing. I'm grateful that we have a library that is for everyone, including queer patrons. Libraries can also play an important part in combating fascism. They do this through providing access to diverse information, which is huge because not everyone can afford to just go out and buy every book they want to read. They do that through promoting literacy and critical thinking. Libraries host programs to teach patrons to evaluate sources, recognize bias and misinformation, which is huge in the current time, as well as all of the manipulation that happen online. They create safe and inclusive spaces. They protect intellectual freedom, fighting censorship. Fighting censorship is huge and it's very important to me as a citizen here. They encourage civil engagement and they preserve historical memories. So libraries house archives and collections and all kinds of stuff that could be lost, right? So safeguarding access to information, supporting informed discussions and discourse, resisting censorship. Libraries are so important to our society and they're something that I really value. So please continue to support diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging and bring back Drag Queen Story Hour, which parents can choose to bring to their kids too if they want to. Thank you.
Gary Wilson.
Thank you, library board members. Today's St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day, and a few of you are wearing green, I'm wearing green, so yeah, just thank you for your service. You know, Three Creeks has a kind of a special place in my heart. The Friends of the Library member here for a couple of years, in February 2019, and helped out with a number of book sales here, so going over to the storage unit and loading up a truck, sometimes mine, and you know, bringing the books back. It was a lot of fun, and I've spent some money too on some of the going through doing that. You see a lot of books and you know picked up with you, but I just want to thank you for your service, and please continue to err on the side of caution when it comes to programming for most vulnerable patrons, children. Thank you.
Julie Coep. Following Julie, we will have John Wolf and Nancy Dickerson.
I just want to thank y'all. This is my first time here. And I have always loved libraries as a kid. And then I had my own children. We lived in Hillsborough. And we lived a mile from the library. And the library served two purposes when I had little kids. One, I would take my 4-year-old there once a week. We had a date night. And while baby was home with dad, me and my 4-year-old would go to the library. We'd pick out a ton of books for him. And we would read some books. And then we would bring a board game from home and play the board game there. We knew the librarians. It was a fabulous library, had a playground behind it. And then afterwards, we would top that off by going to the Baskin and Robbins across the street. And the second thing that was so important about it was a place for mom to get away. When I needed time to myself to just browse the racks, to sit and write in the journal about what was going on in my family. And it was just a wonderful, free, safe place for me and my family all their childhood. And now I live up here and I have found the library system in Vancouver to be just as wonderful as the one I left. So thank you.
John Wolf.
Hello, my name is John Wolf. I'm a resident of Battlegrounds, and I just wanted to come up here and share some comments and also voice support for all the work that you do and why I think it's important. Like some other previous commenters from previous board meetings, yeah, I do believe libraries can be dangerous. I believe they're dangerous to those who want to quell public information. I believe they are dangerous to those who want to prevent knowledge growth and acquisition. Public places are becoming rarer and rarer in our modern world. Third spaces where anyone may attend, no matter their socioeconomic status, gender identity, religious belief, families, or individuals. The library is a key third space, and that's one that you all support, and we appreciate that. It's a key third space because not only of its social implications as a modern day village green, it's also a place where that encourages discussion amongst people and knowledge sharing and access to materials for all. For all the trumpeting and chest pounding I hear from those who want to ban items or silence certain groups or even outright close libraries due to patriotism, I ask, what is more American at its core than the concept of a public library? Here, all are created equal, all are treated equal, and you are given the same materials here as the person next to you. These materials are available, unless it's a James Patterson book and there's like a million holds, but they're all available to all. What you do with the materials that we are provided by you all is up to you, the individual. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The library has bootstraps you can borrow. By wanting to deny the public free and equitable access to materials, these people want to deny the means to prove themselves in the same system anyone should. So again, I just wanted to express my support for the work that the library does and how important it is for us all to stay on top of it, keep informed, and keep these materials available to all. And thank you for hearing me.
Nancy Dickinson.
Yes, my name is Nancy Dickinson. I'm a resident of Battleground. Libraries were always important to my brothers and sisters and I, coming from a not rich family and somewhat dysfunctional family, but the thing we all relied on was the library. And so it's with somewhat alarm that I learned today about the executive order that funding has been cut to the IMLS, which supports libraries and museums. And I was just hoping that there would be some sort of a campaign, suggestions, whatever, that the public can do to try and bring that support back. And that's really my piece. So thank you.
The public comment portion of the meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented? So moved. Second. Any further discussion? I move this to a vote.
Marie Coffey,
Aye.
Mary Ann Duncan Cole,
Aye.
Olga Hodges,
Aye.
Christy Morgan,
Aye.
Mary Williams,
Aye.
Irina Kakarina,
Aye.
Megan Dugan.
Aye. Motion to approve the consent agenda is adopted. We move to approve all items on the consent agenda, which includes the February minutes and the February claims as approved. Next, we'll move into the report section of our meeting. First up will be January 2025 financial statements with Katrina.
We can see that at the end of January, it's 16.5.
Could you speak up a little?
January is approximately $16.5 million. This is a almost $1.8 million decrease over January's beginning of the month cash, which indicates what we would expect, where our expenditures are outpacing our revenues in January. Again, we would expect this with our primary source of revenues being property tax. Property tax made up over 90% of our operating revenue. And they come in substantially in April and October. So it is not uncommon that our expenditures would outpace revenues in January, as we are seeing here, and we would have a spend down of cash. We are still meeting our 60 and 90-day reserve requirement. And as we go down to the bottom section, we can see that we have not expended anything in January in our reserve areas, our capital reserve areas. Moving on to the next page, page 14 of 67 for our revenues. Although we are not showing much for revenues here, as I just mentioned before, this is expected. The top section there, property taxes, again, represents more than 90% of the revenues we get year over year. And a substantial portion of those come in April and October. A few areas that I do want to point out, we are receiving some federal monies that we did not budget for. In 2024, we expended approximately $10,000 in federal grants, and we are receiving some reimbursements in 2025 from those. Going down into charges for services, we can see that those are slightly above what we would expect at this point. And you will also see a large amount in miscellaneous, under the miscellaneous category. This is for an insurance reimbursement that we didn't expect to receive in 2025 because it was canceled in September of 2024. Unless there are questions, I'm going to move on to expenditures on page 15 of 67 in your report. Overall, we started 2025 slightly under budget. However, we are meeting expectations in terms of activity and timing of our expenditures. The first section there, personnel expenditures, are at 7% of budget. This is to be expected as we continue to close the gap on our vacancies. I'm going to note 4 areas that are slightly above budget. Professional collection and technology is coming in at 15%, where we would expect 8% if we were to spend equal each month throughout the year. Electronic resources is coming in at 9%. IT maintenance and licensing is coming in at 12%. And miscellaneous dues and other at 15%. These are all above the 8% based on annual dues and memberships being paid in January. The final thing that I will point out in this report is under capital outlay, Woodland other reimbursements. There's just under $5,000 expended there. We will continue to see expenditures for the Woodland building as we close out that project. And the reason it's labeled that way is these are expenditures that will be reimbursed from our friends of the Woodland Library that worked hard to fundraise for us. And so these expenditures will be being reimbursed for those efforts. Any questions?
I have one thing to add because it did come up and I think it's important to know, yes, there was an executive order put into place Friday night that does move to eliminate the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And that is the division of the government that disperses funds to state libraries and to other museums and libraries for grants and other things. What we do know from the state of Washington is that this, we're still waiting legal determination on statutory obligations of the grants that the states receive. But what it means for the Washington State Library is receives $3.9 million in funds, 32 positions. So nearly all of our library development staff at the state that help libraries of all shapes and sizes. Staff at the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library, as well as institutional library services. It will decimate the state library, services to libraries, incarcerated library services, and Talking Book and Braille program, along with state funding that is already at jeopardy for the state. So it would be detrimental to our state. As far as for Vancouver Regional Library, other than
I'm on a
okay, Other than the grant that Katrina talked about, we do not get direct funding through the federal government. We are at times a recipient of resources that the state library has bought and that we are part of. So there would be some impact, but certainly there are other libraries that would have much more severe impacts, including our state library. So I just thought it would be important for you to understand that. Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to receive and file the January 2025 financial statements as presented?
I so move.
Second. Any further discussion? I move this to a vote, please.
Marie Coffey.
Aye.
Mary Ann Duncan Cole. Mary Ann, can you nod?
We can keep reading.
Okay. Olga Hodges.
Aye.
Christy Morgan.
Aye.
Mary Williams.
Aye.
Irina Kakarina.
Aye.
Megan Dugan.
Aye. Motion to receive and file the January 2025 financial statements adopted. We move to approve receiving and filing the January 2025 financial statements as approved. Next is 6.2, the FVR organizational report with Alicia and Jennifer.
Good evening. It's nice to see you all. Just want to highlight some of the things that are happening around the district, including outreach and programming. Fort Vancouver High School held a Black History Month fashion show, and 2 staff members from our Battleground location were able to attend and table at the event to highlight our resources that we have available in our collection, as well as to connect with the students. At our Cascade Park Library, they currently have a Spanish language computer class, and patrons are able to learn valuable skills in their native language. It's really great to have the ability to connect with our Spanish-speaking patrons and be able to offer this class in Spanish. I really enjoyed this next story. At the center, staff were helping a patron enlarge a document that they were in the process of translating from another language, and they were doing some genealogy research and researching family history. Staff and the patron connected through conversation about the language, the country of origin, and the family that the patron was learning about. Another patron that was there overheard this conversation and politely joined in, explaining that they also had family members that spoke this language and were from the same region. And it sparked a connection between both patrons as well as some shared tips and tricks for genealogy research and stories about their families. But I think for me, the takeaway was this interaction made such an impression on our staff and really reminds us this is what libraries are about, and this is how we build communities within our physical spaces. So it was a really great story. With Shugal, our branch manager spoke to a panel for the Clark County Commission on Aging. This commission provides leadership advocacy, community awareness. It develops partnerships to initiate positive change toward an age-friendly and livable community. So our branch manager, Zoe, was able to talk about, the topic was healthy communities improving access to healthy food. And Zoe, our manager there, was able to talk about the Washougal Seed Library, as well as some other seed libraries that we have across our district, and highlighted resources that are available in our collection and also programming that we provide to patrons around plants, growing seeds, and also growing food. Our IT department set up new 3D printers to replace some aging ones across the district. And 3D printers continue to be one of the many ways that our libraries engage with our patrons and communities, as well as being able to create inspiring spaces. And then a little bit more about 3D printers. Jackie Little, an SLA in our Programs and Outreach Department, was just awarded the Washington Library Association's Outstanding Service Award. This award was in recognition of Jackie's innovative use of 3D printing to meet community needs, and most notably, her disability advocacy at the VA hospital in Vancouver. Jackie helps veterans with projects that are directly related to their disabilities, One example that I learned about was adapting and creating cup holders to fit their wheelchairs using the 3D printers to create those. I thought that was really great. Jackie is a really great advocate and a very valued staff member for us. And then one last thing to share, FVRL hosted a community resource fair at our Vancouver Community Library. We had over 200 attendees that were able to connect with 20 service agencies to not only learn more about resources available, but also in some cases to immediately connect with those resources on the spot. So again, events like this remove barriers to connecting to the broad array of resources that we have available in our community. So, thank you.
In addition to Jackie Little getting an award from WLA, Washington Library Association, our friends at the Woodland Library will also be receiving the Volunteer Leadership Award for their years of advocacy and fundraising for the new Woodland Community Library. Both of these awards will be given during the WLA conference in early April, and many congratulations to both Jackie and the Woodland Friends. April 1st is sometimes called April Fool's Day, but be a library fool. It's Library Giving Day. So whether you give 75 cents for our 75 years or 7.5 million or anything, the foundation would love to hear from you on Library Giving Day. And if you want more information, please go to FVRLfoundation.org. Thank you. Are there any questions? We'll move on to Three Creeks report with Elizabeth.
Hey, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad that I can tell you about the past year that we've had at Three Creeks, which has been
That needs some oil on it.
Year of tremendous growth. So one of my favorite library quotes by Cicero is, if you have a garden and a library, you have everything you need. And I love that because the two really are interconnected. Gardens are growing flowers and making things beautiful. And here at the library, we are growing people. We are helping them to expand their horizons, giving them the information and the services and the resources that they need to really grow and thrive. So a little bit of a brief overview of the Three Creeks Library is that we are a truly community-based library. When Fred Meyers first announced they were building a store here, there was a lot of opposition. And as Fred Meyers negotiated with various neighborhood groups, they said, what can we do to help you support Fred Meyers instead of fight Fred Meyers? And they said, give us a library. And so it was the neighborhoods that reached together and got this land. And then they approached FVRL and said, okay, we got you this land for a library, please build one for us. They passed capital bonds, they raised the money, and that is why we have this library. It is truly a community library. We are named for the Three Creeks, the Salmon, the Cougar, and the Whipple Creeks, because it is not just one creek, it is all creeks. It really is an inclusive neighborhood library for everyone. We did open January 12th, 2002. We had a refresh in 2014. And we are excited to see what is coming up in the future. But let's talk about last year. So when we talk about growth and plans growing, we can also talk about how much the library's grown, which it has. So comparing 2024 to 2023, we had 151,608 visitors, which is a 4.8% growth over 23. In terms of new library cards, we gave out over 2,100 library cards, which is 10.7% over last year. Our computer usage has also skyrocketed, growing 16.9% to over 13,000 individual login sessions on our library computers. Our programs are blossoming. We have 41% more programs in 2024 than we had in 2023, 485 programs. And our participants have also increased, over 13,500 participants, which is a growth of 26.3%. And summer reading, which once again, Three Creeks leads the district in summer reading participants, over 1,800 participants, which is a 28.9% growth over 23. So we are growing as a library. We are growing in the people that come in the computers that are being used, in the programs people are attending, and we are excited to grow more. Using one of our FVRL databases, I looked up, and the growth expectation for the Salmon Creek area in the next 5 years, we are expected to grow a little over 5% in people, and we are excited to help grow the library along with the community. So as we have been working on our programs and how to reach more members of the community, we were looking at different populations that may not have been served as well as others. And so we've been focusing programs on different groups. Last year when you came, we had just barely started a homeschool hangout, which has continued and grown and thrived. It is now one of our staff favorite and patron favorite events every month. We hold it. We've also worked on getting tween programs back and running. During COVID, there were fewer programs for tweens. We've now started regular tween art nights, theme nights, STEM nights, and it's been wonderful. We've also worked on trying to connect more with our adults and seniors, and you can see a picture there of two of our adult patrons during our goat happy hour, where we brought goats into the library's courtyard and people got to play with the goats and be happy. That's what they were for, was to bring happiness. And we've worked on adults with disabilities. We now have a monthly program with accessible crafts for adults. And we bring craft projects that everyone can work on that are exciting and cool looking, but yet also very accessible. We did all this research. We found the best scissors. We found the best markers. They're triangular shape. They're a little bit bigger. We talked to other libraries who were working with adults with disabilities. We did all this research. We came, we did our first program, and some of the caregivers started to cry, and they said, you know, you could have given us the chewed on crayons that the toddlers used and we would have been happy. The fact that you were able to bring a program for us, for this population, is what's really touching. We're still not sorry we did the research because it's really cool and we got really cool tools, but it really was a need in our community and we were happy to meet that. And we recently started a program with Goodwill to do weekly English language learning classes, which the first few weeks, nobody showed up. And now we have regulars who come every week and are able to expand their English skills. So we've really worked on growing in our community and reaching people we hadn't been able to reach before. Trying to click with confidence. Apparently I'm not confident enough. There we go. We've also been trying to grow our outreach and get into places we normally haven't been. Last summer was our second year of doing our outreach in the park, where every week we go to a different park in a different neighborhood that we serve, and we bring library programs to the community. We're trying to connect back with the senior living facility. With the Highgate Senior Living Facility, we recently did a gingerbread program here in the library. We had extra kids, and so we connected with them and said, hey, would you like to do a gingerbread building program at your facility? And it was a wonderful thing. The residents had so much fun. We also go to places like Penny Creek in partnership with our outreach and community partnerships team at the operations center that serves adults who are 55 and up who are suffering from chronic homelessness, and the Recovery Cafe, which helps adults who are recovering from addictions. We've also grown our partnerships within the schools. We brought the Reptile Man to Hazeldale once again to over 460 people. It was wonderful, and it's in an area where a lot of families aren't able to get to the library due to transportation issues. So it was great to bring a performer there to the schools. We've been working a lot with the Skyview Stormbot team. They're the robotics team just down the road at Skyview. They are award-winning, including last year the Impact Award, which they won because of their partnership with us and the programs they do. This past Christmas, they did 4 robotics programs for us. And in November, they partnered with us to do a wild robot party where they taught kids how to build their own robots. And we do weekly story times at the school. We did this great program at the Pleasant Valley Primary. If you give a first grader a library card, this was our 2nd year doing it. It was wonderful. We had 6 different stations for each of the 6 classrooms, and the kids got to really see what the library had to offer, and they left with library cards. There's too much to talk about, but we've done a lot in the community, and it's great with our partnerships with the schools. We've also worked with a wide variety of partners to provide programs where we use their expertise and their connections to help enrich the lives of our patrons. So I mentioned Goodwill doing English language learning classes. Humanities Washington has done programs with us. Master Gardeners is a perennial favorite. The Alzheimer's Association has done programs with us. Brent Locus is our tax partner that provides free tax service at the library. Red Cross has come, League of Women Voters, and Willamette Writers is one of our newer partnerships. We're excited where they meet monthly here at the library to help support writers in the area. And speaking of Brent Locus and our tax program, we received a grant from the American Library Association called Thinking Money for Kids. And during one of our homeschool hangouts, we tried out some of the financial literacy programs, which the kids love, the parents love. We are planning to bring them back in April during spring break and provide them for all of the families in the area. And we are sharing these programs with other libraries at FVRL to help reach financial literacy for children everywhere. Yeah, I'm clicking with confidence. There we go. So just a couple of thoughts from our patrons, because this is why we're here. This is why we do it, is for our patrons. And so they wrote us some lovely notes and said some wonderful things like love the library, pleasant surprise, nice little library. Or thank you so much for the wonderful work you do with the library programming. It has been great for us. Or beyond belief, this library is a home to. With all my neighbors, my love will never change. And that's what makes us come here, is the impact we could make in people's lives. And if the library is a garden, these are our wonderful gardeners. We have an amazing staff. They come every day for the sole purpose of helping people find information, connect with each other. And I am so happy to have such an amazing staff. And if our library is a garden and our library staff are the gardeners, our friends are the sunshine. And we couldn't do it without them. So I want to say a big thank you to our friends. Thank you to the friends who are here. We love you. You are wonderful. And as the last little thought, these pansies are for you, so that when you plant them and you see them growing, you can think about the Three Creeks Library and how we are growing. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'd happy to answer them.
I love everything you said. Are there any questions? Facilities and Finance Committee, Resolution 2025, 3 non-resident. So last month, the board approved policy change really to how we calculate non-resident fees. And I should have brought the resolution to the meeting last month, but here it is today. So this resolution is really about setting the fee, which is $107 effective April 1st, and that's based on the discussion. So this is because we discussed this previously, we just did not vote on it. And so are there any questions before? Is there a motion to adopt resolution 2653, non-resident fee equivalent? Any further discussion? Ms. Fitzgerald.
Marie Coffey,
Aye.
Mary Ann Duncan Cole, Olga Hodges,
Aye.
Christy Morgan.
Aye.
Mary Williams.
Aye.
Irina Kakarina.
Aye.
Megan Dugan.
Aye.
This is Mary Ann. I've got an eye too. I just didn't hear the call.
Thank you. Motion to approve resolution 2025-3, non-resident fee is adopted. Next is staff report 2025-5, levy lift. This is the really high overview, right? Really quick. We'll be going more in depth with this at our next meeting, and so this might feel fast, but there will be plenty of other opportunities to talk about this.
Yes. So, this obviously is the first time that we're seeing some options for what will happen if the levy passes or if it fails. And I'm going to read a lot of this to you tonight because I think it's important for everybody to hear it together again, recognizing that we won't know the results for some time, but what we do have to decide fairly soon is the actual options that are going to be selected should the levy pass or fail, so that we can share that publicly. So the Board of Trustees has been considering and discussing our financial condition and the levy lid lift since September of 2024, and in January approved resolution 2025-01 that calls for an election on August 5th, 2025 to restore our requesting voter authorization to restore our funding to 50 cents per $1,000 of taxable assessed value. A median home value in the district in 2024 was just under $400,000, and the cost to the taxpayer based on the average home value will be $199.82 per year for library services if approved. This represents an increase of $92.40 annually, or $7.71 monthly for the average homeowner. We have developed plans for either result for the August 5th vote that we'll talk about in a minute. There'll be a special board meeting on Thursday, April 3rd at 4 p.m. at the Vancouver Community Library for the sole purpose of going in depth on a discussion around these options and allowing time for the board to ask questions and give further direction. Then at its regular board meeting on April 21st at 6 p.m. at the Washougal Community Library, the staff will be seeking the board's approval to provide direction on the options should the levy pass or fail on August 5th. And this will allow us to immediately launch into an information campaign with our public. It's important that we align the mission, value, and purpose of FVRLibraries to the levy lid lift discussions and decisions. FVRLibraries is dedicated to lifelong learning, community engagement, and equitable resource access. This measure is grounded in these commitments, providing funding that sustains library services across the district. By bringing this measure to voters, FVRLibraries is prioritizing transparency and community involvement in decisions that affect library services. The proposed options outline potential effects on library operations and the district's ability to meet community needs, helping voters to make an informed decision. When we think about all the things that we have to take into consideration regarding our mission and our values, we consider things like community needs and expectations, fiscal sustainability and responsibility, impact on service levels and quality, infrastructure and facility maintenance, strategic growth and innovation. By consistently applying these guiding questions, FVRL Libraries works to make financially sound decisions that align with the district's core values and mission, ensuring transparency and accountability. In developing these plans, we also have to account for critical organizational considerations, such as FVRL Libraries is represented by 2 labor unions that have collective bargaining agreements, which will guide any staffing reduction process should the levy fail. The specific impact on employees will only be determined after the levy results. FVRL Libraries follows a fiscal management policy that aims to reserve 60 to 90 days of our operating expenses. And we do this because 96% of our revenue comes from property taxes, and we get substantially our payments twice a year in April and October. So we need to draw from the reserves throughout the year when we're not getting paid, and then that fund gets replenished when the taxes are received. But it's important to be able to draw from the reserves to ensure that staff and our vendors are paid in a timely manner. So that is why it's important to maintain that balance. The decision with the Board of Trustees this discussion and further discussions with the Board of Trustees will illuminate if we need more options presented. There is, options to infinity that we could go over, but in order to bring you something, we had to decide on some discrete numbers in order to get our heads wrapped around what this means. It's important to note that the financial forecast that we use contains the most current data available, and actual results and budget expenses may vary over time. To ensure library services align with community needs, we will be launching a strategic planning process and facilities master planning process this spring into summer with a deep community engagement portion that will allow us to hear feedback from the community on what they'd like to see from their library over the next 5 years from a strategic planning standpoint, and over the next 10 years from a facilities master planning standpoint. Both of these plans will be able to be implemented no matter what the result of the August election is. But obviously those results could provide for different goals and objectives in those plans. So as I mentioned, there are 2 options I'm going to go through for if the levy passes and 2 for if the levy fails. And at the end, there's a table that really provides a good highlight so that we can get our heads around what it means in all of these options at once. So the first option, if the levy passes, is considered to keep our current FVRL service levels as is, and with the exception of building the Washougal Community Library. That would be the only new addition. That would allow us from, again, an estimated forecast to be able to sustain the levy through 2040. Branch and bookmobile hours would remain consistent with 2025 levels, which is 690 hours per week district-wide. We would maintain our 12% of revenue going towards books and other materials. We would include the funding for the new Washougal Community Library and related operations. We would maintain our basic repairs and maintenance of our 16 facilities and vehicles. We would maintain the integrity of inflation factors for personnel budget and other expenses, meaning escalations are built in. Our personnel cost would be expected to be between 67 and 71% of the budget from 2025 through 2034, and then increase to 72% of the budget in 2038. Staff full-time equivalents are expected to stay relatively the same. Again, the hours would stay the same, so we don't anticipate a growth in staff And we would ensure continued training and travel budget to invest in staff growth and development. So that's one option. Option 2 would increase the FVRL service hours by 13% district-wide. Would also build the Washougal Community Library. Would plan for a third bookmobile in Clark County. We have one in Quick-A-Tack, one in Skamania right now, but it would add back an old idea of bringing a bookmobile back to Clark County to be able to reach many of the growing areas that are underserved in this county. We would continue to invest in, and you'll hear this throughout, in our books and other materials at that 12% rate. That is a rate that we pay attention to as a best practice in the industry. So whether the budget is up or down, it's still the 12% of the total revenue available that we would invest there. We also are including funding for an anticipated new library in 2030 to address growth in the district. Again, our master facilities plan will inform that need and where that should be, and the board would have to determine whether or not it's funded. These forecasts that I'm talking about are just that. They are just ideas to ensure that we know what we are anticipating that needs done, but the board would have to decide every step of the way, if the levy passed, when and if those new services were funded. In this case, staff positions would increase by 8% or an estimated 18 full-time equivalents in 2026 to deliver the 91 more open hours per week district-wide. Personnel costs are expected to represent 67 to 71% of the total operating budget from 2025 to 2031, then remain at 71% through 2035. One thing I failed to mention, with this option, the levy would only, is estimated to only last through 2035. One thing I said in earlier discussions, and it's not in this document, that it's been 15 years since we asked for a levy lid lift, and the average amount of time between levy lid lifts is approximately 7 years. We've gone 15. In both of these examples, it far exceeds the 7 years for the passage. So that's the good news. Option 1 and 2, should it pass. And as I said, there could be a whole variety of other options we look at. It could go anywhere from looking at phasing in things that we're going to add versus putting everything in year 1, for example, as far as hours, etc. It could be, something we haven't thought of at all that you will. So we're definitely open to hearing that. We're going to move now to if the levy fails, option 1. So option 1 is titled Significant Upfront Reductions. The goal here is to take cuts that we know would sustain us over several years. That allows us to reduce hours and numbers of full-time equivalents that would have to be reduced to stay within the budget, but not have to make changes year over year. So we'd make the cut. It would last for some time before we would have to make cuts again. This allows us to both make the cuts, but then immediately turn around in 2026 and go back to the voters again, asking for a levy lid lift. We will have to continue to go back and ask for that levy lid lift because we need some WD-40 for I'll pay attention. But we will have to continue to go back and ask for a levy lid lift until it passes. And so if, again, it doesn't pass in 2026, we'd have to continue on until it did. And so making these cuts up front allows us administratively and operationally to reset to whatever the new normal is, and then to begin working on a levy lid lift in the future. So these are pretty extreme reductions that impact people's lives, both the lives of our staff and the lives of our patrons. So it requires us to continue to maintain about $500,000 in our budget for the future levy lift, because if this one doesn't pass, we have to pay that again the next time. It requires branch and bookmobile hours to be reduced by approximately 51% between 2026 and 2030. In the first year, we would reduce by 30% for 207 hours district-wide. And then we would stay in that same number of hours until 2029, when we have to reduce another 30% to stay within the budget available. Lots can happen between 26 and 29, but this again is just demonstrating out how long that the budget would sustain. Books and materials, as I said, would remain at 12%, but would take a reduction of $675,000 less between 2025 to 2030, or 36% reduction. It removes any investment in expanded services, meaning no new Washougal Library, no new library in Clark County, no bookmobile in Clark County. It also proposes to close the Vancouver Mall Library when the lease term is up in March of 2028. That library has been around for a very long time, many decades. And the reason why this is on the table is this particular lease is a six-figure lease. It is very expensive. And when we are having to make tough decisions, this is one of those things that we're putting forward, because we believe that we have other libraries in the neighboring area to the mall that provide full service libraries, meeting rooms, study rooms, etc. And so we think that it's prudent to put that on the table. We, of course, have to maintain all costs that we cannot adjust related to rents and leases and repairs and maintenance and insurance. We also will reduce other estimated expenses with utilities. Fewer hours mean fewer utilities, supplies, custodial, professional, and other services. But the true reduction to staff is what hurts most. Personnel costs remain at above 60% in each of these models, and that goes to the integrity of the system. So as we make cuts, we make them in a way that the system still can function as a whole as long as possible. So in the first year, 2026, we would, in this option, reduce staff by approximately 30% or 68 FTE. And this reduction would remain in place through 2028, when we would have to, in 2029, reduce 25% more, or another 40 FTE. So very deep cuts. And again, this is allowing us to take the cuts, adjust to the new normal, keep the system operating as a whole, except for obviously the Vancouver Mall location in 2028, which goes. Option 2 is a minimal annual reduction, which retains more staff for longer, more hours for longer. But the issue with this is that we will every year have to make cuts in order to balance the budget. And so from a public standpoint, it could be confusing because we will be changing hours annually. From an administrative capacity standpoint, it requires the administration to work through those cuts annually with our labor unions and with our staff. So a lot of administrative work that goes into that at the same time that we would be trying to go back for a levy as well. So it's just balancing all of that. It certainly can happen, and it can be a way forward, or we would not have put it in here. So in this case, we would reduce hours to branches and bookmobiles by 15% or 103 hours district-wide in 2026. And we would keep the books and other materials at 12% of the budget. We would have to then reduce the branch and bookmobile hours by 31% or 186 hours in total between 2027 and 2030. That's approximately 7 to 16% a year, depending on what budget is available. Again, the Vancouver Mall would close at the end of the lease term in March of 2028. And we would reduce all expenses where we can. Obviously have to maintain other expense accounts for things that we don't have control over. And it removes any investment in any new libraries or new bookmobiles. For the staffing, for the first year, we would cut 15% or an estimated 34 FTEs. So basically it's almost half of what the first option is. But then in future years, we'd be cutting 7 to 16% annually through 2030. Again, we maintain the integrity of the system and how it functions to the best of our ability. So the summary box basically aligns and shows that what happens in each of these cases. So I'm happy to answer any questions I can or to take ideas about things that you would like to see differently. What I will say at the April meeting, when we drill into this further, you will see more numbers. You will see more graphs. That kind of, when I talk about the integrity, you'll see that no matter what option, the pie chart breakout looks pretty similar. It's just how deeply we have to cut and what those forecast numbers really are. But if there are other options beyond this that you would like to see, we certainly can put those together between now and then.
So I will start off by saying we have had a chance to look at this in our committee. And I want to encourage the board that there are no stupid questions and we have to do this in public. So we can discuss, we can ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. And so can you remind me when we vote on the
April 21st is when we're going to vote on the options.
That's the official. Well, the things that stand out in my mind are if it passes for the options. So there's two options. The one that says everything kind of stays the same and we just carry on. The second one reduces the asking again by 5 years, but everyone gets something. And so my initial thought is to the public, you know, if they're going to be paying more money, everyone's going to want something to, you know, something for their money. And so I'm kind of leaning toward option 2, I think. I don't know, but like that just sounds, you know, everyone's paying more money, everyone's going to get something. And then on the, if it fails, I'm trying to go back and forth in my mind about, you know, the biggest impact that people will feel is staff. And so is it better to reduce up front all at once? Or should we keep everyone in this perpetual state of, is it me next? I don't know what's going on. So those are kind of the thoughts I'm having all day.
The other thought would be if it fails and we do have to let go, if they have more time to anticipate that this is coming, not this year, but it gives them information or time to consider what the next move is for the poor employees that are being impacted.
I want to make sure I understand that fully, Marie. So if we went with option 2, which is a smaller reduction in the first year, those particular employees would be noticed in the fall, winter time period because it would go into effect in January. But we would reduce how many employees would have to be laid off is what we're saying. So yes, but the who isn't laid off won't necessarily know if they're impacted because every year becomes a new layoff period, if that makes sense, and a new application of the contract.
So the more time is not necessarily going to be beneficial, they don't know.
Well, it's beneficial in that it reduces the impact.
I mean, I've been in layoff with a threat before and it messes with your morale as an employee. That's a hard decision. I know you guys have other questions or things you want to talk about. Can you guys online hear us okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
And I'm assuming that we'll have an opportunity in the next couple of days to go through this whole document and we'll email any comments that we have that can be brought into the whole group.
Yeah, and Marianne, I would say that whatever thoughts you have over the coming days and weeks until April 3rd, you can certainly call me, email me, etc. But we will then bring those to the April 3rd meeting where the board will drill into this in more depth.
Do we need to select either option 1 or 2 in April, or is that determined as we go forward and the levy passes or it doesn't?
You need to, on April 21st, select an option. It might not be any of these, or if it passes or if it fails. That can be specific to meeting the actual budget that will be available in those scenarios. And that's why it's important if you said, I want to see, 5 options. I won't say 500 like I did the other day because Katrina gets really upset. But, if there are some other options you want to see that have more phasing to it, we can do that. Like I said, the options go to infinity, but what doesn't change is the dollars that will be available.
There's paused this sufficient amount of time. No other questions or discussion or anything done. We'll be back.
Are we putting together a campaign to try to encourage people to look at this ballot and maybe vote in favor of an increase?
So Marianne, the library will be doing an information campaign. We are not allowed to tell people how to vote, but we are allowed to provide factual information, i.e. The vote is on August 5th, 2025. We're asking to restore funding to 50 cents per $1,000 of taxable assessed value and the details of what will happen should it pass or fail. That will, once those decisions are made, will turn into an information campaign. At the April 3rd board meeting where we talk about this further, Julian Mendez, our Director of Communications and Marketing, will also provide an overview of that information campaign plan.
Excellent. And I think I need to sit down and keep training myself and start bringing this up in public meetings that I don't know how aware people in Screening County are right now about our crisis.
I wouldn't think that they're that aware yet, but that is all part of the information campaign is to get out there, and that will be done in lots of ways through our strategic planning process, through our regular outreach we do all summer long, and in other speaking engagements to help people to be aware of the issues and be informed so that they know what to do on August 5th.
I'm curious, you're really restricted in terms of your option for taxing, but that doesn't stop donations or other ways of raising funding, does it?
Not at all. Our foundation and our Friends of the Library are consummate advocates, and always fundraising and adding and enhancing what the library can provide. However, with a $35 million budget, okay, so, we really, the tax dollars are how the library operates. And yes, it is different than other forms of government. They have other sources of funding that they can turn to. We have property taxes as our main source of funding. So I know it's difficult, it's a lot, but again, please let me know between now and the end of the month of what you would like to see, if you have more questions, so that we can make the best of our time on April 3rd at 4 p.m. at the Vancouver Community Library.
I will be there. I'm curious, on a $300,000 home, which is pretty low, property tax, if we increase it, would be what percentage then?
I didn't have the percentage. It would go up by $92.47 a year on the $400,000 average home value.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that is significant for some people, but it's only a book or two.
Lots of comparisons of what you can and cannot do with $7.71 a month.
That's the amount. Thank you.
Good question. So we are going to move on to policy committee. Fiscal management policy, this will be the second reading.
So this is the second reading. Katrina's going to do a brief overview of the changes for you.
Thank you. You may remember from last month that the changes to the fiscal management policy were initiated through our state auditor's office audit. Their annual audit process identified some areas of improvement for our fiscal management policy. Those areas were related to disbursement control when it came to electronic payments, some cash handling controls, as well as how we support allowable staff-related expenses. So we've made those updates throughout this policy. As we got in there to make those updates, it allowed us to make some housekeeping updates as well. So we updated some budget information, as you can see there on page, remember, I apologize. And we added the grants management section as well. Those are the most significant changes. There might have been a comma or a word adjusted here or there as well. That is the bulk of it between the state auditor's office comments, addressing those to be in compliance with the audit and housekeeping changes.
Are there any questions? Motion to adopt the fiscal management policy as presented. So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? I move this to a vote, please.
Marie Coffey,
Aye.
Marianne Duncan Cole,
Aye.
Olga Hodges,
Aye.
Christy Morgan,
Aye.
Mary Williams,
Aye.
Irina Kakarina,
Aye.
Megan Dugan.
Aye. Motion to approve the fiscal management policy is adopted. Vancouver Regional Library District Board of Trustees will now meet in executive session to discuss real estate as allowed by RCW 423110. The Board of Trustees will be in executive session for 20 minutes or until 7:45 p.m. The Board of Trustees is, sorry, I'm speaking correctly, is not expected to take further action following the executive session. So we're gonna, this time, we're gonna leave the room. You all are welcome to stay here, and we'll be back.
You can turn this down.
Can those online here now?
Yes.
Good, all right. Well,
So if you wouldn't mind repeating what you said when they
The meeting
couldn't hear, since we came back.
the board comments as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
All right, I am going to rewind us back to board comments. Thank you for hosting us and for the lovely flowers.
Thank you again for the flowers. And also as the board liaison to the foundation board this year, I wanted to continue welcoming Jenny, who is the new director. She's really here now. We've had some meetings with her at the foundation. It's been great. And thanks to Judy, who's here. I've been supporting them and I'm excited to watch them launch their first ever storytelling fundraising night that's coming up, hopefully early summer, at Washougal Community, or Washougal High School Auditorium. So if anyone has ever aspired to tell a mock style story for 5 minutes about what the library has done for you in your life, you should come talk.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for hosting and really appreciated the presentation of what you guys have going on there. Really inspiring to see how much you're connecting with local groups and how much you're serving your community. It's wonderful to see that.
The setting for the next special meeting is Thursday, April 3rd at 4 p.m. at Vancouver Community Library. And the setting for the next regular meeting is Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m. at Washougal Community Library. Is there a motion to adjourn the March 17th, 2025 meeting?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.